it's so important to know self, right? Because if you're looking at any opportunity, any job, any, contract, any financial opportunity, and you're like, oftentimes we make decisions. I certainly did this earlier in my career, is I would make decisions based off of money, right? And arguably, that's what the majority of people do is, oh, you know what, I can do that job. I'm going to take that job if I can get that job because it pays me enough money. And then they get into it and they realize, why am I so miserable? Like you look at the Gallup poll and, close to well over 50%. I think the numbers are even as high as 70% of people are just miserable in their jobs, right? They're just like punching a clock and can't wait for Saturday. And when you think about that, like that's not why you're here. So the importance of understanding self, like if I were to take this job, how does it feed the eights in my life? How does it feed me mentally? How does it feed me spiritually, relationally, financially, right? You've got to ask yourself those questions. And then what happens is that becomes a best culture fit. So if you're a company, you're looking for people that fit your culture because you're like, hey, we're getting ready to change the world, Bob. And how we change the world is probably going to look very different in the next 6 months. So even though I'm telling you that right now your job is to build rocket boosters, I'm going to tell you that that could change in the next 6 months, but the mission doesn't change. The mission is we're going to change the world. So are you on board with helping me change the world? And that's, I think, where companies have to get back to is when they're interviewing, people for their companies is here's our moonshot. This is where we're going. That's what the military was really good about. It was like, Mike, your purpose in the world is to help save the world from bad people. Well, I can get on board with that, right? Now, your mission might change, Mike. Just understand the mission is commander's intent. That will likely change. Your purpose doesn't change, but your mission is probably going to change. And your identity is probably going to change a little bit too, right? Because you're going to have to evolve over time. Not who you are, but just the taskers that you'll do, right? I might call you a field engineer one day, and all of a sudden now you're a AI bot maker or something, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, but don't get wrapped up in your identity because that'll change. Your identity needs to be true self. We put on a persona, right? When we're born, people pour into us and we begin to adopt different personas. And that's the danger of AI if people do not understand who they are. And they just go, well, AI is just going to, I'll just follow whatever it says. Well, geez, why? Why not be a creator, right?
Yeah, this is part of, like you said, it's part of the self-awareness. But I also think about our daughters and
Mm-hmm.
students more broadly who are trying to figure out what they want to do and where they want to go to school and what they want to study. And if they haven't gotten any AI exposure other than, using something on their phone, but not getting any actual training on how to use it properly or when to use it, when not to use it. But
Mm-hmm.
more broadly, I just see the majority of folks just following this still pretty linear path and still linear way of thinking. Like this is how my life needs to go. It needs to go up this path. My parents have these expectations. All my friends are going to school. If you start doing that sort of self exploration in the context of AI and look at some of the signals that we get from, whether it's the Gallup polls. I mean, if I showed my daughter the Gallup polls, it'd say most people hate their job, or looking for another job this year, staying just to put food on the table. Like for kids that really think deeply about that, it's like, why am I on this road?
Yeah.
Let me carve my own path, or let me start to think about ways in which I can leverage my innate, skills, my creativity, my curiosity, and how do I explore these things looking far past how much I get compensated. But I think this goes back to, individuality and understanding that that's where your value going forward will be realized. I just think kids would start to think a lot differently. you're following this path because your authority figures are sort of guiding you in this direction, but the sky's the limit, right? And so you've got to really
100%.
understand like all the things that you're capable of, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I guess we need, as IBM used to call them, we need more wild ducks.
Yeah, well, yeah. What an opportunity for wild ducks too, because there's going to be new industries that are developed in the next couple months, in the next year, in the next 2 years, things that we didn't even really think about. Although I will say that if you have ever watched Star Trek, you can see where we're going, or even the Jetsons for that matter. You know what I'm saying? Like you go back and look at the stuff that we produced years and years ago, and you go, wow, if I'd only just kind of followed that, like that's where things are going. If people want to know where could we go, look at what Hollywood produces in sci-fi movies. We can go there. If you can imagine it, we can develop it, we can produce it, we can make it happen.